Our next presentation is also a very interesting one. So I welcome Thomas Haase to the stage.
Thank you.
Thomas, hi, how's it going?
Thanks.
Thomas has, yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thomas has joined Configit more than 5 years ago. He has actually a master's degree in engineering and has 30 years of international experience in software development and also in software sales, in ERP, business intelligence, CPQ, and more. And today, Thomas is giving us a more detailed view on virtual showrooms for configurable products using Ace with Unity. And to those who have listened in before this session, we had presentations from our partner Unity, where we developed the integration with to provide actually virtual showrooms for configurable products. And Thomas is giving us a deep dive into this topic. So please help me welcome Thomas Haase, and also over to you, Thomas.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, so let me share my screen because I'm going to both explain and demo things to you. So let me first share my screen here. So now I'm sharing my screen. So yeah, welcome to the virtual showrooms for configurable products using Ace and Unity. And it's a demo, it says, so most of what I'm doing here will be demos. Now, I would like to meet you a couple of actors in this demo. I will first play two roles where in a role play where I will pretend to be a customer who is configuring a skid loader on a website, and afterwards the engineer will take you through how it's being set up, this skid loader UI inside of Configit Ace. So the demo is really, it is not a full-blown Unity demo. It's not a full-blown Ace demo. It's a demo that shows how these two solutions are connected and gives you a flavor of how a virtual showroom could be set up using these solutions. So first, I'm a customer who is going to configure a skid loader in a virtual showroom. So let me enter the virtual showroom. Now I'll here start this UI. So this is running in a browser, in a normal browser. So all the streaming is taking place on the server. Nothing is locally installed here at my computer. So here you see a skid loader. And we have to pretend that I'm now a German customer visiting this website, and I'm going to configure this skid loader. So what you're seeing here is the default configuration for the German market. You would have different default configuration for different markets. Now, first, let me go in and select the tracks. So here I can go in and I see this is going in the way. So here I just move this sharing screen bar. Now it's moved to the right, so I can click on these. So first of all, now I can go in and I can go in and say I would like the wheels instead of the tracks here. Yeah, that looks kind of nice. Okay, and then we can also take a look at the different equipments here. We can have, for instance, the sweeper. Looks like this. I can zoom a bit out. You can see here the brush cutter. I can zoom even more out so we can see it. The brush cutter, and we can take a look at the bucket, and we can also take a look at the forks. But actually, I would like the sweeper here. Now we can take a tour around the skid loader. We can turn it around like this, and here you can see this little button up here. Means you can, for instance, open and close here the engine compartment. We can zoom in so we can take a closer look at here the engine compartment. So you see a lot of details. I can tell you we are doing a project now with an existing Configit customer that has so many details that you can actually zoom into the product and see all nuts and bolts and hoses inside of the product. So you can have a lot of details using this Unity solution. Now let's close this again. So I can spin it around and we can take a look at the product. Now, actually, I would actually like the tracks. Let's go to the tracks here. We can see that the tracks are not available now. But I can, as a user, say, but I really want the tracks. And the Configit's configuration engine comes up and say, but dear user, you need to take away sweeper in order to get the tracks. And I can say, it's okay. So now it takes away the sweeper and we get the bucket as a default with the tracks instead. Now, we can also go and look at some of the other configurable things. We can look at the color here. Here you can see the cabin color. Actually, there's only one color available, and that's how it has been set up in the Configit Ace model, that in the German market, we only have this color available. In the UK market, for instance, it's another color. You could also set it up so the user could choose. But in this use case, this is decided from the skid loader company side that you only want to offer one color in that market. And the same about the body color down here, which is the charcoal. So these are the colors. Now, you can also go in and you can select different packs. Here we have the different terrain packs, and we can say, I would really like this smooth terrain pack. But actually, I cannot have it due to some previous selections. Again, I can say, I really want this smooth terrain pack. But if you want this pack, you need to take away the tracks and the bucket. Okay, so I'll say, okay, I'll take away the tracks and the bucket. And now you get the smooth pack. So this is also an option for the customer to select the pack instead of just going for the individual options. Now let's change the environment. We can actually go in here and say we would like to see it here in the outdoor instead. And now the virtual showroom really becomes interesting because you can have many different environments to watch your product. It could be inside a showroom, like you know from inside a company and have showrooms, but it could also be external. And now here we can, again, from the external side, you can turn it around. And you can see now here we take a look around, we take a walk around the product. We can also change the camera so that we can have here this free look camera. And the free look camera is more where you spin around yourself. So now I'm just spinning around myself instead of spinning around or walking around the product. So you can also have all kind of different camera views. Let's change back to the one where you spin the product around instead. No, actually now I changed my mind. I actually would like to have the forks instead. So I go here and I said I really like the forks, and you can see here now it's grayed out due to some previous selections. I cannot have it, but I really want it. And it says the Configit VT technology and the Configit configuration engine tells the UI, yes, or the user, that you can get these forks, but you need to take away the smooth terrain pack. Then it's okay. So now we get the forks instead. And the last thing, I think, because I'm gonna start working on this, I need to have the tracks because it's kind of rough, the terrain that I'm running in. So let us go and change. And here we can see we cannot have tracks together with the forks. If I click and say I want tracks, it says then you have to take away forks. So I, as a German customer, I would really like these forks and tracks together. That is what I need. But it's too bad that I cannot get it. But actually, I get a little bit curious because I actually have a friend, engineer Thomas, who works at this skid loader company. So I think I'm going to call him and I'm going to ask him if this is really not possible because I cannot configure it the way I really would like it. Let's go back to the slideshow here and just visit what you just saw. You saw me as a customer, German customer, configuring the skid load. You saw in a 3D experience, a virtual showrooms experience. You saw how I could view the skid loader from different angles and interact with it, open, close the engine compartment. You can view it in different environments and virtual showroom settings. You saw the cameras. You also saw how the Configit configuration technology, who supports this user experience, you could select in any order as a user. It had the conflict resolution if there's something you cannot have due to previous selections. You saw the fast response times. You saw I could go in and select packs. You could say the more high-level selection that drives the selection of other more technical parts. You saw also something about, I explained the market availability, that in the German market where I'm sitting now, the customer could only get this one color that was determined for this market. But eventually the customer could not get what he wanted, so this combination of forks and tracks. So now customer Thomas calls engineer Thomas and says, Engineer Thomas, could you please take a look whether that could be possible? So now I will log into Configit Ace. Eventually, we will take a look at the architecture of this solution that I'm showing to you. But for now, we will just go in as Engineer Thomas and take a look at how this model was set up for the UI that you saw before. So let me go back to the demo here. Now I will go into this. This is the login screen into Configit Ace. And again, this will not be a full-blown demo of what Configit Ace can do. It will focus on the things that are relevant for this setup with the Unity UI. And for those of you who don't know Configit Ace, this is the way you log into it. It's a web-based solution, and you log in as a user. You can set up multiple users that can collaborate on configuration models here. Here you see the entrance screen where you see the modeling part where most users will work. There's also something about releases. We will visit that briefly, reports, and also administration to set up users and all kinds of functionality. But for now, we will start doing a work item. The work item is the concept of when you create a work item, you create a copy of the master version of the configuration model, and then you can make changes, and eventually after the change, you can promote it and create the new version of the master product. So let us just create a work item here, and I'll say update skid loader. And we say create new work item. I'm tempted to explain so many things to you, but because of the lack of the time for that, I will focus very much on the things that is important again to the integration with the Unity. So here you can see I actually have two product models in here. I have also a Naviera car, which is a very nice demo also of a car. You can actually find it on the Unity website. If you go into Unity Forma area of the website, you will see a car demo, which is this one. The one on Unity's website is not supported by the Configit Ace configuration engine, but this one is here. But for today, it's the skid loader that we are going to look at. And again, I have to constrain myself from explaining all kind of things. But so now I'm logged in as Engineer Thomas. And before actually the customer Thomas that I know asked me to take a look at this compatibility, whether we could offer forks and tracks together. But one other thing that customer Thomas also asked me to do as Thomas Engineer is he said that, you had this smooth terrain pack, and when you selected that, you got the sweeper. But actually, the smooth terrain pack is the most popular smooth terrain pack in the market is probably more with a brush cutter and the wheels instead of the sweeper and the wheels. So maybe that was a recommendation from customer Thomas to say, Engineer Thomas, maybe you should update your pack so it contains the brush cutter instead of the sweeper. So I, as Thomas Engineer, will also take a look at that now when I'm entering. But before I go in and make changes, I will go in and explain to you about how the model was built. First of all, we have here features and families. You'll recognize these from the UI that you saw before. For instance, the body color. Here we have aqua and dark gray, and we also have here the cabin color where you have charcoal and orange. We didn't have the choices in there because they were determined by the market. But we had definitely, you could see the terrain pack, the rough and smooth terrain, and we have the tractions, tracks and wheels, and we also saw the equipment with the sweeper, brush cutter, bucket, and forks. And even the engine compartment state, whether it was open and closed, was also in here in the model. So we have all these variables inside, and feature families, as we call it in ACE, inside of the model, which is the fundament for the UI that you saw before. Now, I also wanted to show you some rules. For instance, the feature applicability, which is something that marketing added. If we go in and we say, look at the German market, and then we go in here and look at the variables, we can see here for the German market, do you remember that the traction, you could choose between tracks and wheels, and tracks was the standard. Equipment, you could choose between all these four, and actually bucket was the standard. But when you look at color, body color, and cabin color, there were not two options, there were only one, because we have set it up here to say in this market, we only want to offer this combination orange and dark gray. If we had chosen, for instance, the UK market instead, like here, then you will see a different setup. Here you will see that it has the aqua color as default and the charcoal cabin. And then you can see here you cannot get the sweeper. So this is the way marketing can set up what do we want to offer in different countries. But there are also other rules in here that we did and that you saw in effect in the demo before. For instance, if we go and look at the rules here, you can see there are the pack rules, smooth terrain pack. And if we take a look at this one, you can see here it says the smooth terrain pack comes with the wheels and the sweeper. And you can also see it's a marketing rule. Actually, this is a rule that was done by marketing. So really, if we had the time in this demo, I would also play marketing, Thomas. But because we don't have so much time today, I will just do it as Thomas engineer, although it's marketing's responsibility to do this. So let me do that change that was recommended to say we need the brush cutter instead of the sweeper. So I will now edit it. And I will delete the sweeper for this pack, and then I will add instead the brush cutter. Here's the brush cutter. So we say save the rule. So now we have the combination of wheels and brush cutter for the smooth pack instead. But I'm taking you the tour. We will change the engineering rule afterwards. Now I'm just taking you to the tour of this demo in relation to the UI that you saw before. There's also another important concept of this setup for the Unity UI, and that is the property system, or you could say metadata is also sometimes referred to, but we call it properties in Configit. So here you see all the properties that is actually needed, and the Unity UI is using to work properly. For instance, you have this runtime thumbnail. If I click on this one, you can see here that there are different thumbnails, some PNG, some images that the Unity UI will read out of the Configit API to determine what thumbnail to show next to the variables. You can also go in and see another one. Let's look at this one, the game object, which is quite important there, of course, all important, but the game object is actually the reference to the relevant CAD elements to show in the UI when the user interact with the product. So for instance, some of the interesting ones are here. You can see the equipment. When I changed the equipment, it changed what was shown in front of the skid loader. And here is actually the CAD element to be shown. So when the user selects something else, out of the Configit API, the Unity UI knows from the Configit API what should be shown. The same about the engine compartment. When it's opened, then you can see actually this is a longer comma separated list of CAD elements to show when it's opened and when it's closed. So these could also be actually dynamic, these properties, so that the CAD elements to show would be dynamically determined based on other user selections and not just one selection. So this can be highly sophisticated in the setup, in how the configuration model and the Unity UI interact. Now back to the last thing, I as an engineer, Thomas, I was going to take a look at this rule with the compatibility of this equipment and track. Actually, it was about the forks. I can also just search and say it was something about fork. And then it finds the rules where you have something about forks, and we can see here it is. Yes, I can see as Thomas engineer that you cannot get tracks and forks together, but actually, I have an idea how I could deal with that. So I think I will just go ahead and I will change it and edit the rule, and I will say I know a way to support that. So we will make it available for the customers to buy that combination. So now I say save the rule, and again I only have 5 minutes left, so I now have to work quickly. There are many things we can talk about in here. I could also go in and test the model in here, but let's skip all that and just go directly and make it available for the customer. So here I can go in the work item and see the changes that I made. You can always go in here and say, so what changes did I made? I can click on this one. Okay, I made the change. I added this tick mark to a valid combinations of tracks and forks. So this is a very nice way to see what changes was made in a work item, and all work items are saved afterwards. So you keep track on who did what changes to the configuration model over time. But enough explanation about all these things in Configit Ace. Let's go directly to the promote, where I then go in and now I create a new version of the master. So now I say promote work item. Now it's promoted. And now it's time to release it out to the consuming systems, which is out to the UI. So now I'm also playing a release manager. I will now go in and say I will release the change. So I go into releases. I have this one for the demo. And I will just go in and say publish. Now the Configit Ace is publishing this new version of the master out to the website that the Unity is using, or the web API that Unity is using. So hang on a second. Now it's done. So now we are going back to the UI, and it's being, there is a timeout after some minutes. It can actually be set up to not timeout, but default there is a timeout for the UI, so it's not running there on the streaming platform all the time. But before I just started, let me just go back to the PowerPoint and show you here. So what you just saw is that Thomas Engineer showed how the skid loader model was created behind the scene, you could say behind the Unity UI. Also, I made the changes to create a work item, made changes to 2 rules, and I promoted and released it. So now let's go back to customer Thomas and see how it works. So let's start this again. Yeah, and it's there. So it's also pretty fast spinning up the model there. So now we have the setup, and now we can go in and test it. Let's just go for this smooth terrain pack and say, now let's select the smooth terrain pack. It says then you have to take away these 2. You say accept, and then you now get the brush cutter instead, as you can see. We can also go in and say we really want the forks. If we say forks, then you have to take away the smooth terrain, and let's go in tracks, and now we can get the tracks with the forks. Now we can go both wheels and tracks. So now it's available. So back to, and of course it would be nice to see it in the nice environment. It looks kind of nice when you see it like this. Also with the sunset and all that, this is a nice angle. Also you see how the lights are shining in the surface of the product. But anyway, back to the PowerPoint. So now you saw that the customer could get the smooth terrain pack with the brush cutter now, but also that the fork and tracks were available now. So let's briefly, last 2 slides, to say the demo architecture, how this model was built. So how it was done was, you could say first, you create all the variants, you could say that is the terminology of Unity variant sets, what we call feature families or variables, and the rules and the metadata, the properties in Configit Ace. Create all those in Configit Ace. Then what happens is that Unity has an authoring environment called Unity Forma. The integration that has been done for this demo is set up this way, where you then, after you have created the model in Configit Ace, you go into Unity Forma and you import out of the Configit API all these variables and metadata into Unity format. From Unity format, you can then publish it to the streaming platform called Furious, which is the one that was streaming the skid loader that you saw before, which of course could be embedded in a website or a CPQ application or whatever it is. And then eventually the user can then interact with the APIs of Configit when the user configure. And you could say, this is the runtime scenario where I, as the German customer, go in and configure, and the UI interact with the Configit API. And the last slide here says, so what you just saw now was basically me as the customer Thomas going in and configuring the skid loader. And afterwards, I went in as engineering Thomas and made a change to this model, released it to the Ace configuration API, and then you saw the UI then work with the new release of the API. That was my 25 minutes before I promised to leave 5 minutes in the end for question and answers. So I just say this is the end of the demo, and thanks for watching.